She had learned, slowly and painfully, not to trust beginnings. Not because she was bitter, and not because she didn't believe in love anymore, but because somewhere between her first heartbreak and the carefully built defenses that came after, she had realized how many people love the idea of you more than they love you, how easily they are drawn to your light but disappear the moment the brightness dims. So when he came into her life, all smiles and warmth and effortless presence, she didn't believe him. Not fully. Not deep down. He was too easy to fall for. That was the problem. He had that kind of charm that wrapped around you before you even noticed it, the kind that made silence feel like comfort and simple gestures seem like intimacy. He remembered what she ordered without asking. He paid attention to the way she tucked her sleeves when she was nervous. He didn't interrupt her when she drifted off mid-sentence, but waited for her to find her words again. All of it was perfect. Too perfect. And that's why it scared her. Because it all felt like something she'd seen before, something temporary, something that bloomed too quickly and burned itself out just as fast. She knew the patterns by now, the initial fascination, the attention, the words that sounded like promises but were never quite promises, the way they always said this feels different, and then, the silence, the distance, the gradual retreat. She wasn't new to being adored briefly. She had simply forgotten what it felt like to be chosen steadily. He never said too much too soon. He never rushed her. But that was part of the problem. He was patient in a way that made her wonder if it was all just part of the dance, if he was simply playing the long game before disappearing like the rest. Even when they were together, in restaurants, in bookstores, in late-night drives where the city looked softer than it usually did, there was a voice in the back of her head whispering, "This won't last. You're just a moment. Just a mood." Because she had seen it before, how men like him, who seemed built from steadiness and softness, would one day say they weren't ready, or didn't expect this, or worse, that they thought they loved you, but maybe it was just the idea of you. So she waited. Not for love, for the ending. Not for him to pull her closer, but for the moment he'd start to let go. He noticed, of course. How she never fully relaxed, how her eyes stayed guarded even when she laughed, how she'd look away when he said something that might have been too kind. But he didn't confront her. Didn't ask her to open up. He just stayed. And that was, perhaps, what unsettled her the most, his ability to stay without asking for anything in return, without trying to define what they were or where they were going. It was as if he knew something she didn't, as if he was waiting for her to realize she was already safe, even if she didn't believe it yet. One night, as they sat side by side on a rooftop, watching the city hum beneath them, he handed her his jacket when the wind picked up. She hesitated, just a second, before wrapping herself in it. And he said, softly, not looking at her, "I know you think this is just temporary. But it's not, Layla. I'm not here for a moment." She didn't answer. Because part of her still didn't believe it. Not yet. But something in her chest, something quiet and old and bruised, began to shift. Time didn't test her trust the way she expected it to, with betrayal or distance or silence. No, what tested her was his consistency. Because he didn't leave when things got ordinary. He didn't pull back when the excitement settled into routine. He didn't lose interest when she stopped trying so hard. And that, in itself, was foreign to her. She had been conditioned to believe that interest was a flare, not a flame, something that sparked brightly and died just as quickly. That once the surprises ended, once she became familiar, once her layers weren't mysterious anymore, the affection would dull. But with him, nothing dulled. If anything, it deepened. Subtly. Daily. Without asking her to notice, and yet, she did. He noticed when she was tired, not because she said so, but because she held her coffee differently. He remembered her deadlines. He walked her home even when she said he didn't need to. He listened, truly listened, even when her words came out sharp and defensive, and he never flinched, never made her feel like her fears were too loud, too much, or too fragile to hold. She waited for him to get tired of her hesitations. But he never did. Even when she pulled away, slowly, quietly, almost unconsciously, he didn't follow with desperation. He simply stayed within reach. Not clinging. Not disappearing. Just present. As if his love didn't need proof, only time. Then came the hard week. Not between them, but inside her. The one where everything in her life seemed to fall out of rhythm. Work pressure. Family tension. The gnawing sense that she was behind on everything, that she wasn't enough, that no matter how much she tried to keep it all together, it would eventually slip through her hands anyway. And she did what she always did, she disappeared. Not entirely, not rudely. Just in the way she'd mastered, shorter replies, longer silences, polite avoidance that no one ever questioned, until now. Because he noticed. And instead of texting her for the fourth time or asking why she was distant or saying, "Let me know if you need anything," he did something different. He showed up. At her doorstep. On a Friday evening. With nothing more than a brown paper bag of food and the quiet look of someone who wasn't there to demand anything, just to be there. She opened the door, still in the sweatshirt she hadn't changed out of for 2 days, eyes tired, heart heavier than she wanted to admit, and all she could say was, "I'm not really in the mood for company tonight." He nodded. Didn't flinch. Didn't step away. Just said, "That's okay. I'll just sit here on the floor. You don't have to talk. Or even look at me. I just didn't want you to be alone." And he meant it. And she knew he meant it. So she let him in, not just into the apartment, but into the part of her she had spent years building walls around. And she didn't apologize for the mess, for her silence, for her unwashed hair or her sudden tears. She didn't try to be charming. Or composed. Or strong. She just let herself be exactly what she feared he would one day run from. And he stayed. Not because he had to. Not because it was easy. But because loving her wasn't a phase. It was a choice. A daily, quiet, unwavering choice. Months later, when things were lighter, steadier, safer, she asked him why he never left. Why he didn't walk away when it would have been so easy. He smiled, in that soft, familiar way of his, and said, "Because you never pretended to need saving. You just needed someone who wouldn't get scared when you stopped hiding." And that was it. She realized then, truly, deeply, that for the first time in her life, she wasn't just loved in her best moments. She was loved in her worst. Her quietest. Her messiest. She wasn't temporary. She was chosen. And finally, she believed it. Some loves burn fast and fade. But the ones that last, they don't ask you to be ready. They just stay close. Until you are.